Hey guys, this is Ruben Langdon, aka Dante from Devil May Cry, aka Ken Masters from Street Fighter, and also Chris Redfield from the Resident Evil series. And you are listening to the Kasanova Podcast, the #1 podcast in Hawaii. Jackpot.
This wasn't written with your comfort in mind. Nah. Made my decision, wasn't tough to decide. Nah. Me and my boys, we get it done every time. Gotta earn it, you can't just jump in the line. You'll get rushed to the side. I top my division, I've been building since I started. In the parking lot, I parked it. I came in while picking targets. My career cannot be tarnished. I'm a champion regardless. Celebrate, but this a different kind of lucha party. We are not alike. I don't want your advice, I don't want your opinions. It's not gonna be different from the ones I told to listen. I've been working on a bigger picture and y'all ain't impressing me. Hey, como said D, say shut your mouth, respect the legacy. Ain't no comparisons, y'all just embarrassments. All of my confidence is rooted in my heritage. Yo, and with Mendoza and Mr. Wild, we showing what this about. Phantom driving, your career is disavowed. What's happening, y'all?
Welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. And today we are joined by the one, the only Nabil of Geo Now. It's such an honor to have you on the show, man. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Man. You have a lot of fans out here in Hawaii, so like this is going to be really awesome for a lot of people. Yeah, it's a huge SNK community out here, and it's just, you know, outside of you and Shoryu, the Shoryu game and a couple others, like it's really been not easy finding content that's centered around, you know, SNK as a whole. So it's like seeing the work that you've put in, like with the documentaries and the recaps and the live streams and everything that you've done. And it's just been like, I want to say thank you for the work that you've been putting in and just showing love to SNK.
Thank you for the kind words and thank you for watching. I mean, I started the channel in 2019, I believe. So, it's about 3 years now, and it was just something that I wanted to do because I've been a fan of SNK since the first few games, since the first Fatal Fury game. So, and I didn't expect to get all the fans and all the people enjoying the the content. So again, thanks to you and all the fans as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, and what I guess before we dive into like your career in content creating, what got you, like, if we were to step into like the DeLorean, let's go back in time, like what was the moment that made you like the big fan of SNK? Or were you more of a, did you initially start off like more of a Capcom fan and then you shifted over to SNK, or what was the origin point for you?
Well, honestly, the first fighting game I played, the first time I saw a fighting game, first of all, I saw a fighting game in like magazines first, and I couldn't, my mind couldn't understand what a fighting game is because I was used, back in the day, and this I'm talking about, 1991. So just still playing on my NES at the time, so I didn't fully understand what's the one versus one thing. So when I saw Street Fighter 2, the World War in front of me, that was something that I was mesmerized from the get go. I loved Street Fighter. I'm still a big Street Fighter fan, honestly. So I was really captivated by Street Fighter 2. And then I was just wanted to play every other fighting game. Fighting games were the best games in the world for me. And that's how I got to play Fatal Fury. And when you compare the first Fatal Fury to Street Fighter 2 in terms of gameplay and characters, it is kind of inferior in terms of gameplay and characters to Street Fighter 2, right? It is what it is. But I love the idea of the how much SNK took its story seriously. Street Fighter 2, the story was, we didn't understand the story back then, so it was very, very basic. There was no backstory. It was just people fighting each other. There was an evil person, Bison or Vega, or depending on where you are. uh, but Fatal Fury was this whole story of revenge and the brothers coming back and all that. And then after that, I remember playing. I can't remember, was it? I think Samurai Showdown, and that actually just blew my mind again. Street Fighter with swords, and and again trying to find the stories. I had it on Super Nintendo, I believe, and I remember, and I was playing it all the time. And then I got to Fatal Fury 2, and it's just been from one game to another. I was playing other fighting games. I'm a huge Street Fighter fan. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. But SNK and these characters, Terry Bogard, I kind of grew up with these guys.
Yeah.
So it's just really started from the first Fatal Fury, and then it started shaping up with Fatal Fury 2, Samurai Showdown. And then when I saw King of Fighters 94 at the arcades back in 94, that was again, another thing that just made me more a fan than I already was at the time. So that's how I got into it. And I haven't missed a single release since then.
And it's just like, I feel like the younger generation, that's coming up now, people who were born in like 98 or 2000, or damn, we're aging ourselves right now. The generation that was growing up like in current times, like they don't have that like understanding of what the arcades were, but like that was like our online tournaments back then. Like we would go to arcades, put our quarters up. Like that's how we discovered a lot of new games if it wasn't gaming magazines. And fighting games, I know, now it's like the Fortnites and the Call of Duties and everything like that. But for us growing up, it was the fighting games. Like it was the beat 'em ups, and then it became the fighting games. And it's like, Street Fighter 2 changed the landscape. And then we had Fatal Fury, and then we had Sam Show, we had Art of Fighting, and we had Mortal Kombat. What was that? Fighter's History, which I actually loved Fighter's History, even though that was like a blatant Street Fighter 2 copy. But it's crazy, like just looking back on like how that scene was and like how influential it was for us, and then just seeing how it like towards the 2000s just went away.
Yeah.
And then you heard like Sega is like completely pulled out of the arcade.
Absolutely. That's heartbreaking, because I always wanted to go to Japan and actually see that that arcade place in there, but unfortunately didn't happen. So, but yeah, it's kind of sad, but it's looking at it, it's not surprising, right? I mean, we knew it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time. I think Japan is the only country right now that held on to arcades as much as possible, but it just it's just the truth. It's a dying business. It is what it is.
Very true. With the one thing I noticed that Mortal Kombat started doing it after SNK, but with the fact that SNK has, I would say, from the 90s onward, like early 90s to even now, like they've always been very consistent with strong storytelling. And it's something where I know a lot of people, I've had conversations with people where they mix up like the KOF timeline with like the Fatal Fury Art of Fighting. And it's like, okay, that's kind of easy to do, but they're separate, but they kind of overlap, but they're separate. But the fact, like I put up a poll not long ago where I asked like which has the stronger storytelling, Capcom or SNK, and a lot of people are like, oh, Capcom. And I'm like, really? Why? They're like, oh, Street Fighter has really strong storytelling. I'm like, compared to Fatal Fury and KOF and Art of Fighting? No, not really.
Again, when I say that, and I've said this multiple times on my streams, some people didn't like it, but I always start by saying I'm a huge Street Fighter fan. I've played every Street Fighter. I know the stories. I love Street Fighter, right? But story-wise, it has been stagnating for a long time. The Street Fighter 2, okay, we got the idea. Street Fighter 3 was a huge, jump. Street Fighter 4 tried to kind of like go back into the story part, but it was very confusing, and it was kind of like a Street Fighter 2 retelling almost, right? So the characters in Street Fighter, unfortunately, they don't grow up. They don't, you don't see an evolution in character, right? I mean, look at Terry Bogard. We saw him when trying just to have his revenge, to growing up and taking over, basically raising a kid, right? Rock Howard. So these kind of things you don't see in other fighting games. Yet Mortal Kombat does it, but I think they and again, I'm switching subject. Again, I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan as well, but I'm not a fan of where the story is going with it. It's just getting too convoluted. It's more like a Marvel universe thing than Mortal Kombat right now. But SNK kept its thing, where it's a good story. It's the character evolve, grow up, etc., which is what you want in a good story. I'm not saying it's without its fault. Absolutely not. There's a lot of questionable things, but that's another subject. What if we get into the lore?
I definitely have to say, like, one of the things that kind of frustrates me with, if we were to touch on like the KOF timeline, is the direction that they've gone with the Nest characters. You know,
Mhm.
the Nest art characters. Like after 2001, I know they kind of were trying to do more with like K-Dash and Kula and Maxima, but it kind of felt like it was leading somewhere when we got to KOF 11, and then KOF 13 kind of just like pull back a little bit with K-Dash and Kula. And I felt
Yeah.
like Kula, okay, my frustration with Kula is when she was introduced, she was such a badass character when she was
Yeah.
introduced.
Yeah.
And they've just, and I understand plot wise why they did it, but it's like they've regressed her character. And I was like about to lose my mind if I was like, did she join Cronin and Hell because of ice cream? I'm so glad that's not the reason.
Yeah, that's not the case. That's not the case. That's not the case. I understand, yeah, because when she was created, right, like she's the anti K-Dash, and her whole point is to defeat K-Dash. She was a badass character. But she was, and they even said that in the beginning, but that it wasn't shown in those first few games that she was a child, right? So
Mhm.
now that she's free from the nest and all that, she's acting like a child that never grows up. Whether her character is gonna grow up, whether she's gonna have more things to do, I don't really know. But I think they moved her. Like I think it started good, but then right now there's nothing big going on with her. Not sure if that's and again, you got to think about, they're introducing so many characters, and each arc or each saga has its own protagonist and all that. So they focus more on that, and the other characters just get a little bit of the story. And maybe it has to do with how limited staff, limited, budgets and whatnot. But I see your point about Cool. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, that was just my frustration. I mean, then we got they they haven't done anything with the Hizoku clan. They haven't done anything with the dragon arc with
Yeah, I think that's gonna happen. I don't think they're gonna because it was last time we saw it was on King of Fighters 13. There was that ending
yeah.
where it shows that the Hizoku clan are still there. Ron is still interested in that dragon spirit thing. So I think it's gonna pay up. Maybe not, probably not in King of Fighters 15 or this current arc.
Mhm.
But I think it's gonna come back. They're not. I mean, Duolon is such an important character and such a popular character, and I will be surprised if he's not a DLC. By the way, down the line. So once you talk about Duolon, you absolutely have to talk about Ron, and then you have to talk about the Hizoku. So I think it's just
Yeah.
a matter of time with those guys.
I'm still upset we didn't get Kim. I wanted to see his pants and his new his new engine.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's I don't want to talk about the leaks, right?
You're
Since
right.
nothing has been
Right.
announced, but I'll be frustrated with some. If those things are real, there's some frustrations that I'm gonna have to vent once that's confirmed, because we have some characters before staples like
Yeah.
Kim, but I will be very surprised if he's not gonna show up down the line. I think it's a guarantee that Kim is gonna be in there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's actually they're trying to make him look, because Kim was like in 13 was kind of like the showcase of the engine, right? So maybe that's what they're trying to do. Very surprising he's not in the base roster, honestly. Very surprising.
I was actually surprised that the base roster was like, what was it? It's 9 characters smaller than 14. I
Yeah.
expected I honestly expected it to be 55 or
Oh,
56
really?
characters for this go around, because usually with each KOF game they try to bump up the roster a little bit more. So
Yeah,
I
but
was
but the thing is, usually it's because they're using the same engine and they just add,
true.
using the same. With 14 to 15, it's a complete overhaul, right? I mean, they went to a brand new. They I mean not brand new, but they're using the Unreal Engine instead of their own SNK engine that they built up, which was very, very limited, you know. So they still used, and it's not insider information, I think, but it's just you can see it from the trailers. They still use the assets from 14.
Mhm.
Absolutely, it's the same assets that they probably exported into the Unreal, which is what most companies do. So they still used those base characters, and it just made them look better. So it was more of a using this brand new engine. So honestly, I was expecting less. I was expecting less than 39 because I knew it was going to take them. Because look at Samurai Showdown. It was the first game they used Unreal Engine. It didn't have a lot of characters. I thought it
True.
would like 15 or 16. I can't remember. So I
Mhm.
wasn't expecting 39. I'm happy we got 39 and 12 more or 13 more DLC for the first season, I think, or first year. So I think it's gonna be a big roster. Looking at it a couple years from now. And
And,
again, I'll be very surprised if Game is not there. I will be very surprised.
and the other thing we've noticed, like from the initial teaser trailer to each trailer we've gotten consecutively over the months and the year, is they've gotten better and better with the engine. Like the character models are looking substantially better than from
Mhm.
what they did at the beginning. That's why it's interesting to me. I've seen some people, like some game journalists, have referred to KOF 15 as looking like a PlayStation 2 game, and I'm like, have you played a PlayStation 2 game? Because it doesn't look like a
Yeah.
PlayStation 2 game.
King of Fighters 14 was not looking great. PlayStation 2,
Yeah.
no, but it wasn't looking great. Absolutely. Comparing it to other games that were released at the same time. And I was really, really bummed out by the graphics when the game came out, because KOF was always, even though it was outdated in the 2000s, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
2002, 2003, that looked, but it was still beautiful pixel art, right? It was still, and then 13 just blew everybody's mind, 12 and
Yeah.
13. So 14 was kind of a letdown from the graphics perspective, but 15 looks really great. I don't know what some people saying it's a glow up version of 14. No, it's not. I mean, it's using the same models, but you have different physics, hair physics, and clothing physics, which we didn't have. It looks like a modern, it's like a modern game, really.
Yeah. And then like like the way I was really concerned with, like, before we got the beta, I was like, how is it gonna play? Is it gonna play, you know, point for point like 14? Because one of the things I kind of didn't like about 14, and I understand why they inputted it, was the auto combo, and I always wanted the capability of turning it off because
Yeah.
I just don't like auto combos and fighters. I understand it's for accessibility, getting newer people in to play it, which is interesting because KOF is it's not really an easy fighter to dive into when you get into the meat and potatoes of it. But
Mhm.
I like how in 15, how it's there, but it doesn't just auto trigger immediately. Like you have to be a certain proximity for it to take into effect. And I like how they retooled a lot of the characters. Like Terry feels like Terry from KOF
Yeah.
98. And I'm so happy. I'm like,
Right.
finally, he's got his power dunk back.
Yeah. And the DP rising tackle instead of charge.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh,
Yeah,
it's
he's a
I
beast.
think the beta was. I think it was the right move for them to give us a beta because a lot of us. Well, I mean, not even talking about the netcode, but gameplay wise, everybody was worried how the game is going to play, and I think it plays great. I think they took 14 and made it better in terms of gameplay, not
Yeah.
graphics. They all the complaints we had about 14, which is except for auto combo, turning them off. So you have the max mode, doing EX moves outside max mode, which is a game changer. Uh, and then auto combos now, you have the options, right? Depending on what button you press, either it's going to be a normal or a special or a super.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do agree. There's one thing though that is interesting about auto combos in this game is that there are some combos you can't do without actually using the auto combo, which is kind
True.
of, yeah, I think they're trying to have people use auto combos. I mean, some games only rely on auto combos like Dragon Ball Fighter Z, right?
Mhm.
So let's see. I don't like them myself. I always hated it in the first game, but if it brings more people, uh, why not? I have my 7-year-old daughter. She likes to dabble a little bit in King of Fighters, and auto combos is everything she hoped for because she can do flashy things just by pressing one button. So it kind of works for people who just want to see flashy moves and whatnot. But again, I agree. I would like to have the option to turn it off, so I don't use it. My opponent can use it. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't want to, accidentally trigger and use a super while I wasn't trying to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely don't want to burn meter if we
Yep.
don't have to. And and what are your thoughts like when it comes to, I guess, the fighting game industry pushing more so towards like accessibility in fighting games? Do you think that, does that realistically, in your opinion, draw more people into playing fighting games, or is it kind
It's
of like a stopgap?
That's a really tough question. I think we're pretty much from around the same generation, man. So you
Yeah.
kind of remember back in the day, it was that challenge, right? That difficulty that draw a lot of people in because you wanted to learn, you wanted to prove that you can do these kind of things. But
Hmm.
again, back then we didn't have as many video games, right? I mean, yeah, I remember back in the day, I would maybe buy 2 games a year if I'm lucky, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
now you have games on your phone. You have people with really short attention span because there's so much stuff going on. You have the multimedia is all around you. I'm not even talking about social media. You have games on your phones, you have Netflix, you have streaming, everything's trying to draw your attention. So people
Hmm.
tend to not to, spend a lot of time on things that's just gonna, I'm not gonna bother spending, I don't know, 2 weeks trying to learn this game. I'm just gonna play this other game. So
Yeah.
it's kind of true that you need to have some sort of accessibility to try to draw in new people. I absolutely agree with that because fighting games are a niche and they are not in a healthy position or in a healthy place as we were back in the day. Yes, we're doing better than the 2000s, absolutely for sure, but it's still, if you look at esports events and most of the people are from our generation. There are
Hmm.
few. There's still some younger generation, but they're really few compared to the old generation. So that's a bit of a problem. However, I don't like the fact that they force that on everybody. I think it should be an option. Some games tried to do that. I think Grand Blue, I think, has that. I haven't played it, but that's what
Hmm.
I heard. So you can do the easy play, or you can do the normal one. And then if you go easy, you do less damage or some stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult balance to do, but you have to try to draw both people in. You have to, and I'm glad King of Fighters kept it right now. Besides the auto combos, it's still, geared towards people who are people who played this game before these franchises. So it's a really tough question, but yeah, I think you need to try and you need to find a way to draw in new people. And I think there are other ways of just instead of just doing the easy play mode, there are other things, like Mortal Kombat does it. Mortal Kombat is not, it's not King of Fighters, but it's not that easy of a game. It's a tough game, but
Hmm.
it draws people in. Well, some of it just because of the gore and blood. A lot of people just go and play that because of that. But also the stories and this extensive story mode that they have. I think things like that bring some people who just want to learn about these characters and just want to enjoy the single player content. So I think the answer to bring new people in is just it's not necessarily to make it very easy to play for everyone, but to have content that will bring new people. Extensive story modes, right? Not just arcade mode does not cut it anymore in this day and age.
Yeah.
A lot of single player content. Not everybody wants to play online. Yes, that game definitely needs to have good online and robust netcode, but you need to have single player content that's going to bring in people who just wants to get into this world for the first time.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's, looking at what NRS Studios has done with, you know, changing the way story modes are presented in fighting games and how that's influenced so many other games. I mean, it's clearly influenced KOF 15 and how they're presenting their story. It's influenced Guilty Gear with
Yeah.
Strive, and I want to say Exar was kind of similar, slightly, I feel. Or was
Which
it
one?
more
Well,
Exar?
actually, yeah, I think so. The thing with Strive, I haven't, it's I bought the game, I bought the collector's edition, and I haven't played it at all. So, but I know the story mode is you just watch it, you don't even play, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
That I think that they took it one step into the wrong direction because what's the point? You still have to play. Street Fighter tried it with their expansion. They didn't do a good job because the story was a bit weak.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat is still entertaining, honestly. Like 11, I played it and all the expansions, and it's still entertaining. And SNK so far haven't delivered in terms of story mode. And I don't have high hopes for 15, honestly, just to be frank, because when Samurai Showdown, we have something called story mode, but it wasn't really a story mode. It was just an arcade mode with an ending, right?
Yeah.
And couple cutscenes. So I don't know what to expect in 15. And if there's one game that needs a good story mode, it's KOF. It really needs it.
Yeah.
But maybe things will change with the whole changes in management in SNK. But I'm not holding my breath for 15 story mode. I think it's just gonna be an arcade mode with like the interactions that we saw, which is at least now they're in 3D, which is cool, and few cutscenes in an ending. I think that's what's gonna happen.
With all the teasing and illusions that they keep doing with Galro, Mark of the Wolves, how do you think realistically we have a shot at getting Mark of the Wolves 2?
I think we have a shot at getting a new Fatal Fury game. That will be, which would make more sense, kind of for both, like a sequel to Garu and a sequel to Fatal Fury. So you'll have characters from Garu, Mark of the Wolves, and characters from Fatal Fury. I don't think you're gonna have like a pure Garu sequel with only the Garu, like what they intended Garu 2 to be. I think you're gonna have, you're probably gonna have Freeman and Andy and Kevin and whatnot, but then you're gonna have and Rock, and then you're gonna have Andy and Terry and Joe. So Kim, it's gonna be a mixture of both casts. That's more realistic because that way you're kind of hitting one bird with two stones. Well, two birds with one stone. You don't want to hit a bird with two stones. Because it's still it's kind of difficult. It's been such a long time since the first Garo came out, and it's also been such a long time that a normal Fatal Fury game came out. And I think the next game from SNK, the next fighting game from SNK is going to be that's Fatal Fury sequel. I think it's looking that way. It makes sense.
I mean, the amount of teasing that they've been doing, it definitely looks that way. And one of the things I was thinking about it, a lot of people who love Rock as a character primarily know him through CVS 2 or through KOF 14 or Maximum Impact 1 and 2. They don't really, as far as like playing Mark of the Wolves, I don't know many people that have actually, like outside of us and people who are SNK fans, like think of Maximilian, like his love for Rock came from CVS 2, not so much as Mark of the Wolves. So it would be interesting, like, okay, yeah, we got a Mark of the Wolves 2, and a lot of people are going to be like, what?
Yeah. But I mean, see, Fatal Fury too. Fatal Fury is kind of known more than just Garo.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get like a pure Garo. I don't think it makes sense, honestly. As much as I'm a fan of Garo Mark of the Wolves, I would love to see a pure sequel. I like from a marketing or from a financial perspective, I don't think it makes more sense than actually having a sequel to both series, which is again still one series anyway.
Yeah. So with the fact that SNK, I'd like to say that SNK is back. Like they're back.
Absolutely.
They're like, we're not going through the drought that we had through the 2000s. Like they've pretty much got all their IPs back. Clearly with, KOF 14 being the first title, I would say, with them being fully backed, and Sam Show, and we got 15. I see, just like you, like Fatal Fury being the next game. And they also want to revive a lot of their IPs, like with Metal Slug, we got Metal Slug Tactics. One of the things, and I know you've touched on it and I've touched on it too, but seeing the SNK versus Capcom match of the Millennium and then the Card Fighters clash, it's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. Something is cooking for sure. Something is cooking for sure. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence, right? We've had these games, sitting on ice for a very long time. Then all of a sudden, just one after the other, and then you have, every time SNK would do a teaser on Twitter for their next characters, the silhouettes that they do, you'll have the Street Fighter producer, poking fun and drawing some of the characters over that silhouette. And then you had him, actually was visiting SNK just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said don't read too much into it, but yeah, we kind of already did. So, no, it's definitely something. And I think, well, I wouldn't say 100% obviously, but I think the next logical step, I don't think we're going to jump from this to a Capcom versus SNK 3 or SNK versus Capcom 2. I think we're going to, if it's happening, there's going to be some other steps, which is you'll have a guest character from Capcom in an SNK game and from SNK in a Capcom. If that happens, if you see Ryu in King of Fighters 15 DLC and you see Kyo in Street Fighter 6, then yeah, it's just a matter of months before they announce a new crossover. I think it's going to happen if we get to that point. So we still have a couple steps before we say, oh, for sure it's happening. But we're getting there.
Yeah. I really feel like the relationship between SNK and Capcom has improved since Yoshinori Ono left the company.
Yeah. So there's some rumors. I don't know how true they are, but there's it was kind of like blocking things from happening, and I really don't know if it's true or just the internet.
Like I've heard those same rumors, and it's like although it's kind of interesting that once he left, that all this because one of the other relationships that Capcom refostered was them with Arika. You saw the fight in EX, you saw Kyrie's costume for Ryu in Street Fighter 5, which I was like, I never thought I would see that again. So it is interesting to see all that once on
the kind of like it's the steps that you're getting one step at a time, and we're definitely heading into that direction. And I will be surprised if it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
people want it. The companies know that people want it, so I think it's just a matter of time.
Like I'm also thinking probably the next set of games we're gonna get, if probably it may be in this order. I think we're gonna get SNK versus Capcom SVC Chaos, possibly re-released. And I do think we're going to get CVS 1 and 2 re-released, because I feel like dropping them is more of a way of testing, is there interest? Because these companies need to test the waters, like, is there going to be interest? Are we going to get a good ROI if we do that? So I could see them doing that. And then I thought the last character, when they kept teasing the last character for Street Fighter 5, I honestly thought that was either going to be Terry or Kyo. I wasn't expecting Luke, and not that I hate Luke. I think he's a fun character to play as.
You try them?
Yeah, like he makes me like a lot of his moveset. Obviously, his projectile Sandblaster? It reminds me of John Crawley.
Yeah,
like it's so much like that. And then his wheel kick, I'm like, okay, that's very obviously Terry. But I honestly thought I thought we would get Kyo or Terry, because a matchup I've always wanted to see is Terry versus Cody.
Yeah,
I wanted to see Southtown versus Metro City Hero. Like I feel like their backgrounds and their fighting styles, it would be interesting because of how powerful they are in their own universes. Because Street Fighter keeps teasing that Cody is one of the strongest characters, even more so than Ryu and Ken. And I would like to see him at his peak versus Mark of the Wolves Terry, because that would be interesting of a fight. But yeah, I was disappointed. I was like, Luke? Because when I saw the star in the trailer, I was like, Terry? Rock? Who the hell is Luke?
Yeah, I haven't, I have the character. I have the last season I purchased that, but I haven't tried him at all. I haven't even tried Oro, which is just kind of feels shamed. It's just kind of strange that I haven't touched the last season at all. And I didn't like Luke's design. I think I don't know, he feels out of place for some reason. I don't know, maybe I'm just growing old and just not liking new stuff.
You know what it is? You know what it is because when we were growing up, characters had such a flair to them, like such creativity and a fashion sense that Luke just looks like such a generic, thrown
Maybe.
together.
And he definitely looks fun. I mean, I saw the showcase and all that, but it just, design wise, and the fact that they said this is our first kind of look at Street Fighter 6, I was like, oh, I don't like I don't like that. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Well, that's an interesting thing too, is because they hyped them up like we're gonna get this, big story reveal of where Street Fighter 6 is gonna go. And then I don't know if you like play through or if you've seen like his story mode, it doesn't go anywhere. It
I just saw
literally
like first
says
part,
nothing.
like on YouTube where it's like his father was murdered or something. It was a terrorist attack or something. But I didn't watch I didn't see like how does it end? Oh.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Oh really? Okay.
Nowhere. Like it alludes to nothing. I mean, his CO is Guile, or was, and that's it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, you guys hyped this character up for months to go nowhere with him. This doesn't tell me anything about what Street Fighter 6 is going to be. Doesn't tell me where the story is going to go, because they spent the last 20 something years avoiding going past Street Fighter 3.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now we're going to go past Street Fighter 3 and this is our main character. Give me Alex back. I preferred him.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing what we're saying with Capcom, with Street Fighter, just the story is the last thing they think about. Honestly, they just, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Like Ryu did never, like, okay, so Ryu, canonically, so after he was dealing with the Dark Hado, Satsuno Hado, and the first in Alpha games, and then supposedly he controlled it. That's why he didn't have it in Street Fighter 2 and 3. And then when Street Fighter 4 came out, now he's still struggling with it. And then we said, well, maybe that set is going to be done with it. Then again in 5, again, he's still struggling with it. So it's not going anywhere, right? I mean, Ken got married and it was having a baby, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing really happening. Chun-Li is still looking for her father's murder, which is kind of strange. She's still doing that all these years. And Guile it's the same characters, nothing really new, which is really boring, right? Well, I mean, hopefully things will change with Street Fighter 6 now with the new producer. We'll see.
Yeah, that's been one of my frustrations with the Street Fighter stories. It doesn't really go anywhere. Street Fighter 5 was a ridiculous plot.
Yeah, it was bad.
Just like, what are you guys doing with that? And it's like
the whole Nikali thing was like, what is this guy showing up fighting strong people and then he just disappears at the end? There was like nothing. No, it was weird, man. It was weak. It was weak.
And they hyped him up so heavily.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. SNK stories, like, they do most of the time they deliver. Mortal Kombat, it's still entertaining. It's still I don't know if you're into Mortal Kombat or not.
No, I am. So coming off of Armageddon, when they did the reboot, I didn't mind the reboot in the sense of how I retold 1, 2, and 3. And I was like, okay, we're going to go in a whole different direction. We're going to see how this alternate timeline plays out. Then MKX came out. I wasn't against it. I didn't feel like it was on the level of
I hated the story mode effects. I hated the story effect. I hated it. Like, what? Cassie Cage defeating Shinnok? Come on, dude. That was terrible. And then all of a sudden Johnny Cage lineage has this weird power. It's like, what are you talking about? 11 was better. I think 11 was better. 11 was more coherent in a sense, and kind of it went back to Liu Kang. A bit of focus on Liu Kang, is my favorite character, by the way. So I think it was much better. Still convoluted. I don't know where they're going after that, because that ending was kind of weird. Like they're trying to shooting themselves in the foot. So we'll see what happens. Apparently they're working on 12 right now. They're not doing any justice. They're going right into 12, from what the rumors are saying.
So, okay, so now I need to get your opinion on this. How do you feel about the fact that I guess, MK11 pretty much had like what, year and a half to 2 year run, and then they're like done with it.
That was
Like,
terrible. That was terrible. That was terrible. That was so weird. They're like, okay, well, thanks, bye. It's like, what? We're done? That was so weird, and I don't understand it. I don't understand. I mean, it made sense back in the day. Well, not back in the day, but a few years ago. But now it's like you see games are, their companies are kind of breathing life into the games for like 4 or 5 years. Look at Street Fighter 5, for example.
mhm.
And 2 years is absolutely nothing nowadays. It's absolutely nothing. You need to at least have 3 to 4 years. I think it's this whole thing that they were supposed to be purchased right out of like this whole thing with the Warner Brothers, and I think that's what's pushed them to just stop. Because the rumor is they were working on another character pack, and then they moved in to work on Mortal Kombat 12 and just try to prove. I don't know. That's what the rumors are saying. But
Mhm.
I think maybe that has to do with it. But it was very strange. They just stopped in the middle, kind of.
Yeah, it's I didn't understand why they decided to go
And
that route.
usually companies will do that if the games are not selling well, but the game's been selling like crazy, right, for the past.
Yeah.
It's still selling really well actually right now. It did really extremely well. And that's the thing
And
I say, like, man, SNK can do this too. I know they can. They just have to invest a little bit more in the game. They need more single player content. It works. That story mode and those, towers and all that stuff keeps people coming back. It works. So I hope
yeah.
SNK is gonna learn from that.
I think another company that just, in a way, I kind of like feel they disrespected their fan base, and this is, I felt very insulted by this. Koei Tecmo with what they did with Dead or Alive 6.
No, I'm not familiar. What happened?
They killed the game in the year it came out.
Oh, really?
It lasted 1 year.
Really? Wow, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I used to play Dead or Alive back in Dreamcast days, but yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't follow up. Oh,
Yeah,
really? So what? It didn't sell well, or?
it. So what killed it was that the mechanics were worse than Dead or Alive 5. You didn't have as many characters. I think what really hurt them was the fact that Dead or Alive 5 brought in all the majority of the Virtua Fighter characters. So a lot of people got their taste of Virtua Fighter, and they're like, yeah, I want Jackie, I want Akira, I want Pai-chan back in here. And they didn't bring him back. And then they brought in the KOF characters again. Was it Mai and Kula? But the problem with that was the base game was $60. And then you had like $200 to $300 in DLC. And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Um, Dragon Ball Fighter Z kind of did that too. This whole, like, they never released. Like, I wanted to get into the game, but when it first came out, I don't know why I didn't. I was busy with something else. And by the time I wanted to give the game a shot, I saw the game was on sale. I was like, yeah, sure. And then I look at the DLCs, and if I want to have all the DLCs, it's like I'm still gonna be paying like $200 or something. I'm like, that makes no sense. You want to, after a year or two, you want to release like an edition with all your DLC characters, and then move on. Kind of like what Mortal Kombat did that, like NetherRealm Studios did that, and to a very successful degree. But if you just keep the, like, don't include like a collection of your DLC characters at another point down the line, you really block in people from getting in. I wasn't ready to shell $200 or $150 for the game that I wasn't sure I'm going to be playing.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's a terrible thing. And I think companies are still learning from that. Not sure how Samurai Showdown did it, but they did some. Well, I think it's the same thing too. You still have to buy all the characters. They didn't re-release any like sort of collection, but Steam will do those uh sales every now and then, I think.
Yeah. At least, I'm very happy that SNK is still they're still supporting Samurai Showdown, because I remember when that first got announced, like the FGC was very, very like excited about it, and then it felt like they kind of cooled off a little bit on Sam Show. But again, we also had the pandemic and everything hitting.
Yeah.
around when they were going. I feel like that was going to be a showcase at Evo, and then we had the pandemic. But
Yeah.
it's good that they're still supporting it, because like, I don't know how many companies would still do that. Like
I hope they're still not done with it, honestly. I hope they're still not
yeah,
done with it. I mean, it's been quiet lately, but and it's understandable. Again, SNK is a small company, right? If you compare it to any other like Capcom or Namco Bandai, of course, or NetherRealm Studios, it's very, very small company. So I know they can't do both at the same time. So now they're focusing on KOF 15, but I do hope that they didn't forget about Samurai Shodown. It's an amazing game. It needs an online overhaul.
yes,
I don't just mean the rollback netcode. It means like a whole, because the rooms are messy right now. They're working
yeah,
fine in the beginning. I don't know why I didn't have issues in the beginning, but now if I find people, which I can't find people online, when I do, it's like the rooms are just so buggy. Like
yeah,
sometimes it will kick everyone out, and then everybody's name is gonna change to SNK Ghost,
yeah,
and I'm not even gonna talk about that ghost mode that they
yeah.
advertise heavily, and then they're like, "No, it's not there." We didn't say anything, uh, but it needs an update. It honestly needs an update, and I hope they're gonna do that.
um, w- speaking of Samurai Showdown, do you think we'll ever get another Last Blade title?
Highly unlikely. Well, or highly unlikely in the next 5 or 6 years. We'll see after. I don't think it. For that to happen, I think SNK will need to be a massive company once again. Like,
Yeah,
well, not once again, but it needs to be a massive company to be able to take a risk and do a last blade. Because there's you have King of Fighters now, and King of Fighters is probably going to last 3 4 years, probably. I mean, 14 did last that
hmm,
long. Y- by then, you're gonna need to have a Samurai Showdown too, because the first one did well. They're probably gonna have another Fatal Fury. By the time they release these two, there's gonna be another sequel to King of Fighters, and then another sequel to Samurai. So you're gonna be turning to these. I think these three main games are gonna be the ones fighting games that are gonna be rolling. I don't think there's room yet for Last Blade. It pains me to say that, but I don't think we're gonna see a new one anytime soon.
yeah. And another title I think they'll just keep circulating out. It will be Metal Slug to add
Yeah,
on top of. Beyond that, like I feel like anything else would possibly be a bit too obscure
yeah.
for them to do. Actually, I would love for this to be a guest DLC team in 15, a team from Rage of the Dragons. I would love to see that happen, because
That's
that was
not
one of
gonna
my.
happen though, because they the rights went to, I don't remember the company that has the rights now.
Because that's
It's not
getting a
SNK
re-release,
anymore.
isn't it?
Mhm.
I believe that's getting a re-release this year.
Yes, but by this other company, yeah.
Uh,
I don't
I-
remember the name, but it's not it's Rage of the Dragons, and it's not Double Dragon, 'cause it was supposed to be Double Dragon 2,
yeah,
right? And then they changed that. But yeah, I don't remember which company has the rights now, and they're re-releasing it supposedly with online and whatnot. But they
is
announced
it?
that like more than a year ago, and they've been quiet since then.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's the same company as re-releasing Breakers, isn't it? Possibly.
Might be. I'm not sure. Might be.
Because I was thinking I would not have minded having like a DLC team with Rage of the Dragons, because I really like that game. Like, I think that would have been a cool team to have in. Team from Breakers, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's unlikely, but I would love to see
Yeah,
it.
another obscure fighter I like is Powerstone. Oh, not Power Stone, sorry. No. Power oh dude. Forgot
Is it
Power Instinct. Sorry.
yeah,
Power
yeah,
Instinct.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
like that
that's
game. I
that was
like
fun.
those games. Yeah. I used to play the first one back in the arcades, and I love that one. And the second one, and then you have the Match Melee or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
which is really, I mean, it was the last one was in the Neo Geo, but it's not an SNK title though.
Like, it's just, I mean, you really think about like how SNK, they just have refined like the fighting game genre. Like every time they make something really good, they're like, how do we perfect it? And they just kept, you know, Look at the
Absolutely.
evolution from Fatal Fury to the real bout Fatal Fury franchise to Galro. Like that's such a
Yep.
jump. Like they perfected the formula in real bout and in Galro, and then I kind of feel I've had this opinion, and I don't know how many people would agree with this, but I really feel like when Street Fighter did Third Strike and they changed the art style and they slowed the gameplay down and emphasized the animation more to look more hard hitting and fluid, I feel like that was them being inspired a year earlier by Art of Fighting 3.
Hmm.
You know, because
Yeah.
it's I
But
don't
again,
know.
Out of Fighting 3 also didn't do well. So
No.
it's very, yes, it's very risky, and like to just remove everybody that people love and change it, only keep like two characters, which is exactly what Street Fighter 2. I think it was a mistake back in the day. Even now, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is considered one of the best fighting games of all time, but it's still the fact that you remove everybody's favorite and just force them to learn new characters. I don't think that was a smart move at all.
Yeah.
And Auto Fighting did the same thing, and it didn't work out. So
Yeah.
it worked for Fatal Fury with Garo, which is an exception, and I don't think that we're gonna see something like that again. As I
Yeah.
said, the next sequel is probably gonna be something both worlds.
Isn't it interesting like how like a lot of games that are loved now, back when we first played them, they were hated?
Yeah,
Like it's so
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Like
absolutely, yeah. Man, I remember when Street Fighter 3 came out, I was really bummed out, man. I was like, "What?" Now it's really really disappointed, because like I was all imagining, gonna see Guile and Chun-Li and whatnot, and it's just really disappointing. I remember signing in the magazine, I was like, "No, there's no way that's happening." Yeah, but it was. And I think at that time it was when I started drifting more towards SNK games. I was always playing both and fan of all of them, but yeah, that's Street Fighter lost me at Street Fighter 3, honestly, and then it was, SNK was just going. I think it was 97 when it happened, when Street Fighter 3 came out, and that was when KOF
Mhm.
97 came out, and then you have all the Orochi saga and story and cliffhanger at the end of the game. I was like, "Man, this is amazing." Right?
Yeah.
So, it's, yeah, SNK is all about the stories, and hopefully that's gonna continue.
What do you think of when I've heard some people say that like Street Fighter 4 is what brought fighting games out of the dark ages, as if Capcom themselves were the sole company to do that. And it's interesting to me when I hear that from, I guess, primarily Capcom players, and maybe that's why they say that. But it's interesting to me because Guilty Gear was still going. Was SNK was still going with KOF, still going with Samurai Showdown. Uh, a lot of other fighting games are still going too. You still had Tekken going. You still had Virtua Fighter going. Like fighting games didn't stop just because Street Fighter wasn't
No, but
coming
I
out.
do agree with them, and I do agree that Street Fighter 4 did well, not revive, but it did breathe a new life into the scene. It's the truth. It's yes, fighting games were still happening, but people didn't care except us who actually are pure fighting game fans. Street Fighter 4, with its focus on esports, and it actually, a lot of people start seeing the fighting games and they see that they matter, and it did definitely bring some old people and some new people into the scene. It also had the fact that people saw that 2D still is king. Well, not king, but it still works and it still can be a great, great, fighting game in 2D. That's what
Mhm.
pushed, in my mind, I think that was what happened. NetherRealm Studios to take Mortal Kombat back to 2D. Remember, before that, everyone was trying to do 3D. Like people
Yeah.
just, it was kind of like 2D was the old style and 3D is the new style. But all games that actually went from 2D to 3D really sucked. Right? I mean, uh, Mortal Kombat, like went to 3D to varying degrees of success. King of Fighters tried that with Maximum Impact. No offense to Maximum Impact fans, but I don't like that series. It's a good game, but it's not a KOF, for me at
Yeah.
least. So I think Street Fighter 4 did really help defining the FGC in a big way. It's I really believe that.
One thing about the Maximum Impact series, like I like the story and I was interested in where it was going. I don't think we're gonna get another Maximum Impact, but I liked the direction the story was going. But when it came to the gameplay, it was the input windows were so short. Like I main Hio, and trying to do his Rekkas was so difficult because that input window is just so tiny compared to like being able to see the animation, like with him, like, okay, so for a circle, half circle back, you know,
I
like,
don't remember. I played them. I had them on PlayStation. One thing I'll give him though is the second one had a lot of single player content. That was fun to
yeah,
play. You know, there's a lot of weird mini games and whatnot. It was fun. It was really fun. Again, I'll say it again. The single player content is very important, and a lot of companies are ignoring that, which is a big mistake.
yeah,
I did love the fact that they give us, those short anime about the
yeah.
game, which it was the first King of Fighter anime we've got, so I was happy about that. Actually, I still have it in here, looking at it here, the DVD for it. So I'll give them that. I mean, it's not a terrible game, but it just doesn't feel like a King of Fighters game.
What did since we're speaking about the KOF offshoots, what did you think of the EX offshoot? What did you think of how they tried to add to the sacred treasures? Like there's, I think, 9 sacred treasures.
The what? The EX? The
The
one on the
one
Game
Game
Boy
Boy
Advance?
Advance. Yeah.
I played it back when I had the Game Boy Advance, but I don't remember anything about it, honestly. I mean, I remember the first one. I think the first one or the second one. The first one was King of Fighters 2000, pretty much, with
Basically,
with
yeah.
with couple changes. But I don't remember anything about the story.
I know it was an alternate, if I recall correctly, it was an alternate telling of post the Orochi saga. So I think Hibana was one of the main characters, which I wish they would bring her back because I loved her playstyle. She found Kyo after the Orochi saga, nursing back to health in the US, oddly. But
Oh, okay.
it didn't it basically said that there were 9 secret treasures, and from there it was stating that
One of them is a sacred treasure of the new guys, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah. I don't remember.
Yori was with 2, he had 2 secret treasure teammates, and then Kyo was on a team with, I think Mo was one, and then there's another guy who had a daughter that looked like Chizuru, and the main bad guy was a kid that was possessed by the spirit of Ginnets, and it was interesting. But I'm like, I thought the story was interesting, and I would have liked to see where they would have went with it, but I was like, canonically, it couldn't really happen
Hmm.
after given all the events of Nest. But I don't know. It was an interesting detour for them just retooling 99 and 2000.
Yeah, yeah. I have. I mean, I had it back when I had a Game Boy Advance, which I didn't have for a very long time. But I had the game, and I remember it was like 2000, but I haven't played it ever since. I mean, I do come back and play some of these old games, like the Game Boy version of 95, because that's very special to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I haven't. I should actually give it a shot because that's what you're saying is interesting. I need to know the story just for the heck of it, even though it's not going anywhere, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, it's I was liking how they were doing that little detour, and if they were to refine it a little bit, I'd like wouldn't mind it being like kind of like, oh yeah, this is happening during the Nest arc, but this is kind of like off
Yeah,
at
yeah,
a like a different juncture, because introducing more sacred treasures was interesting, and those characters
yeah,
were really cool and their playstyles were fun. It's just, and I guess that's kind of one of my frustrations with SNK. Like sometimes when they introduce really cool characters, they don't bring them back. Like, can I get the Miura brothers in a mainline
yeah,
SNK KOF, please? Uh yeah.
yeah.
One of the things I definitely want to touch on, because the documentaries. What inspired you to start making documentaries, because dude, your documentaries are fan-fucking-tastic. Like they're
Thanks,
so
man.
good.
Thanks, man.
Like,
Well, I honestly, how it started is okay. So I I always wanted to, just since when I was a kid, back in 94, 95, I was actually, having this scrapbook, which I made a video about it. But just, whenever I find something about KOF, I would put it and just kind of like make it this ultimate uh book where people are gonna know everything about KOF. So that's how it started when I was young. Of course, it was no internet back in the day.
mhm.
Um After that, I what a lot of people don't know is I had a website about Street Fighter. That's how it started back in when Street Fighter 4 came out. And then I changed that to do articles about fighting games in general and started focusing more on SNK. And I wanted to do like stories about the Samurai Showdown characters because the Samurai Showdown characters have so much story, even more so, I believe, than KOF characters. Just a lot of rich history based on real history. And then I
Mhm.
was like, you know what? Instead of just doing, since I'm writing all this script, instead of writing it, let's just do it in video. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just do a history of Samurai Showdown. That's how it really started. And I'm just gonna do the video and see what people think. And then it just went from there, really. So just and if you go back to the Samurai Showdown videos, you can see it from my voice that I was still nervous doing that, but it just
I couldn't
went from there.
tell.
Oh
Really?
yeah, I was absolutely. Like the first few videos, now when I go back to the first videos with channels, I'm like, oh, I was pretty nervous, that's for sure. And I just went from there, just learned the whole thing, just tried, learn things by myself and got better and faster in doing things, I guess. I'm still learning though. I'm still not nowhere near what I want to be, but getting there, hopefully.
No, I mean your work is like, honestly, a comparison of your work with like the Samurai Showdown documentary and the Art of Fighting one and the current Fatal Fury one. I compare it because I play Final Fantasy 14. So there's a YouTuber that goes by No Clip, and he did a documentary of Final Fantasy 14 when it came out in 2010 and how it almost, basically closed down Square Enix because it failed, and how it revived under the new leadership of Yoshi P and went on. It's like one of the most successful it's the biggest documentary and the most well researched that I've seen for Final Fantasy 14. And to me, looking at your documentaries for, SNK and KOF and everything that you're doing, it reminds me of that because it's so well researched, and you almost don't see that level of detail when it comes to videos on YouTube anymore. Because, there was a point where we had longer form videos, and then a lot of
Yeah.
people have shifted away, again, because of short attention spans, like the clickbait and everything like that. And it's refreshing to see that. And honestly, your work inspired me to work on, like, there's another franchise I love is Ease. I love the Ease franchise. I've played every single game,
Mhm.
and it inspired me to do my own, timeline documentary of it. And I started it. I did one episode, which people have been badgering me for the last year and a half to do part two. And I'm like,
A lot
I'll
of
get
work.
to it. People don't realize that though.
A
They
lot of
think
work, man.
like it's easy.
Crazy.
And I'm like, no, it's not. It's
One
really
thing
not.
one thing he can tell you is that you get faster as time goes, you start doing things faster. In fact, I can't tell you exactly what I'm working on, but you should know it hopefully this week, next coming week. But the level of work I've done in this series, that's the reason why I'm not doing many videos. I don't know if you noticed, I usually do videos daily for the past month. I couldn't
Yeah.
because I've been working my ass off on this thing that I'm not allowed to say what it is, but it's supposed to release this coming week. And I think it's the most work I've done in all my videos before. But surprisingly, I did it faster than like usually like an episode will take me months to actually finish. Surprisingly, this was more difficult, but somehow it took less. But you had to focus on it. But again, you get used to doing these things faster. It's a lot of work though. But if
Yeah.
you like my story videos, I'm sure you're gonna like this one. it's gonna be good, and it's gonna bring a lot of not hate, but it's gonna be a lot of how do I say this? A lot of people are not gonna agree with with some stuff, but we'll talk next week if you want, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about.
I'm all down for it, man. I'm looking forward to it. I love your content. Like I said, like it was, I was looking for more, SNK related content, and then years ago, that's how I came across your channel, and I've been a fan for years, and then the documentaries, I absolutely love them. Like I said, it inspired me to do one with ease. I'm actually working on. Well, I've teased this for like a year because I'm still working on it, but I'm working on like doing a KOF Timeline documentary because I see so much misinformation out there. They're like mainly from
Yeah,
Capcom
well,
players, mainly from Capcom players. Like I don't hate Capcom players. I love Capcom fighting games, but it's just I've kind of noticed a trend where it's like if it's not Capcom for a lot of people, they don't care about it. I especially with the KOF 15 beta, I saw a lot of and I know a lot of pro Street Fighter 5 players who kind of were bashing KOF,
mhm.
saying like, oh, it's either saying it's too easy and it's brainless, or it's too hard, or they're upset they got to learn multiple characters. And I remember talking to one pro player, and he was complaining to me about the beta, saying like, oh, it's just too difficult to learn all these characters. I was like, well, the thing with KOF, yeah, there's balancing, but if you can literally be good with any team and win.
Yeah.
Like there's no priority over certain characters like in Street Fighter. Like if you can learn a team, you can be effective with them.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It takes time but that's the thing. And again, I guess it's a generation thing. It's just for me when I see a game like that, it doesn't push me away. It's the opposite. Like I want to learn how these people can do these things and I can't. It just really bothers me. Like you see people playing the game, you're like, what is this even the same game? So that pushes me to actually try to do better. I'm not a good player in 14. I started very very late, but I still hold my ground after trying and trying and trying. I think it's just I don't know. It's a generation thing. It really is. Uh, Now it's like people don't bother and just go and play something on their phones, as we said before.
Yeah. It's I guess since we're talking about the generation thing, like how do you feel about I guess the current landscape of gaming? Do you feel that games are because I feel like there's a difference between creativity and fun. Like, do you feel like they are more fun, more creative now than they were then? Or because of the limitations that they had back then, they had to get more creative to make it more fun, to be more appealing? I don't know. I know yeah.
Yeah, I see your point. It's well, I think as a player, uh back in the day, like those limited games, they would make me like imagine more about the game, right? Like they don't give you much because they were limited, but then like in imagination, you add all these things and you try to understand the stories and just I don't know. I think that was fun. It's not the case anymore. They give you everything, but games are obviously now more like blockbuster movies, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's difficult to find a game that actually I would start right now and then just can't stop playing until I finish. It's very, very rare. Only a few games I would say I got that. A lot of them will have spectacle and all that, but yeah, it's just fine. You're like, yeah, fine, I can stop. I'll play there, or maybe I won't even come back to it. And I think it's, as you said, it's like a lot of games are just trying to push the spectacle more than the actual gameplay and fun of playing, which
Yeah.
is yeah. I gotta give Nintendo this. I mean, because their games don't look the best, but you still have some. I still have a lot of fun with games like Mario and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I give them that. They don't look great compared to other games. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy other games. Like I love like recently what games I played recently. I'm currently playing the Guardians of the Galaxy. I love that game. I thought that was great. God of War. I just played it a few months ago. Finally, like the new one, obviously. I think that was a
Mhm.
lot. That was a great game. Played Final Fantasy VII remake. Finished it. Um, didn't like it as much as I wanted to, but I think I'm not into RPGs as much as I think I believe I am. But anyway, there's still games that I would play and I wouldn't stop playing, right? But
Hmm.
it's difficult. Finding a great game nowadays with all the games that you have is not as easy as you would think should be.
And touching on that, it feels like, honestly, because like one of the things, like you said earlier, like when we were coming up, you probably get 1 or 2 games a year. And I don't know how if it was the same for you. Like for me, it was my birthday and Christmas, and that was it. I had to make sure I researched what game I'm getting because that's all I'm gonna be
Yeah.
playing, unless we were able to like rent a game from Blockbuster or something like that. But oh, it's even worse when I was growing up in Samoa. Like, God, getting any game in Samoa was insane. But you know, it's weird to me seeing so many games drop within such a short time span.
Yeah.
Like I'm
You
looking
just
at
can't play everything. It's impossible.
yeah, you can't. Like it's so like one of the things, like I used to do IT, I used to do infosec, and I shifted out of that, like thankfully, because this podcast has allowed me to do this full time. So I podcast full time and I review games full time in tech.
Oh, that's great. Great.
So as I've started like reviewing more games and working with more companies, like I'm looking at next month, I'm excited and I'm dreading it because it's like, okay, KOF 15, that's where I want the majority of my time to go. But I'm also going to be covering Elden Ring. I'm going to be covering Horizon 2. What else is coming out next month? Like, it's just, there's so much coming out.
GT7, Gran Turismo is also coming. I don't know if you.
Is that next month?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's not next month. I think that's March, but like early March. I think.
Because like I'm looking forward to that. I'm like I was disappointed with Sport. I didn't like GT Sport, but
I haven't. The only Gran Turismo I played is the first one on PlayStation. I'm not into cars, but I do play Forza every now and then, just because you just sometimes just feel like not thinking too much when I'm playing just before I go to sleep. Sometimes I do that,
right.
but
And it just feels like, I guess because like we're older, having families and whatnot, our times
oh yeah,
is so compacted that I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like I'm too
dude,
tired to play.
dude, tell me about it. It's family. I have my job, which I do few things at the same time, and then I usually don't finish. I usually come home. Well, I'm not. Most of the time, I work from home, but I'm done around maybe 7 p.m. Then I have to spend time with my daughters and family until my daughters sleep around 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And then that's
Mhm.
when I start the YouTube thing. So it's a lot of work, man.
It's a
And so
grind.
finding time to play is almost impossible now. Like Guardians of the Galaxy. I love the game. I really want to finish it. I've been playing it since it came out, and I barely like will touch it like for like half an hour a week or something. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Like a lot of people don't understand it. Like I when I was doing information security, like literally I would be working from like 6 in the morning to like 6 at night, sometimes 7. And then because our team was me and my boss, I was on call 24/7, even when
Yeah.
I was on vacation. So it's like
I hear.
that.
I'm in IT too, and I have to have my phone on all the time.
Right.
Actually, this is both funny and sad. But I was actually working on my wedding day. So
Same.
yeah. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
you know how it is, man.
Oh
You know
man,
how it is.
I it's okay. So my wife and I, we got married 5-6 years ago, and yeah, like the day of the wedding, I was still working.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, like literally, as I'm at the altar, I'm getting messages, and I'm like, so it's
Yeah. I know the pain. I know the pain. I haven't had like a full day off. Like when like back in the day, my previous jobs before I get into because like I do IT, but I work with oil and gas companies. So
Mhm.
it's really like if there's an issue, it's really time sensitive. But before that, I
Yeah.
would take when I go on vacation, I can turn off my work phone and just enjoy it. But I haven't done this since 2012, I believe, or well, 2014 maybe. I haven't done this. Like whenever I'm on vacation, I have to have internet. I have to have my computer always on my backpack. If something happened, I can just pop it open and start working. I've done it so long now that it just feels normal. Which is
Yeah.
sad, I guess.
Have you ever considered at a point going full time with content creating?
Well, I would love to, but I'm just not gonna be sustainable. Not for the time being. It absolutely isn't. So I have to keep doing what I'm doing and doing this as a secondary thing. Um, but I do have some. I mean, I still have some big plans for the channel. I was before the coronavirus hit. I was going to Japan to film 3 documentaries with SNK.
Mhm.
So one of them was the one of them was a day at SNK. I just spend the whole day at SNK and just film all the departments working on our favorite games. And I got the okay from SNK. I got my plane ticket. Everything was set, but then the pandemic hit and didn't want still doesn't want to go away. So I'm still waiting for
Yeah.
that to clear, but I'm still definitely want to do that. I was also gonna record the history of KOF from there, just like talking to the devs and whatnot. But again, still couldn't do it. So hopefully, with how things are going, I'll be able to do it this year. I hope.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, and I can see it, like you at some point going full time. It can't. I'll say this: you know how IT is. IT pays very well.
Hmm.
Going from full time IT to full time content creating, I'll just say this: I do miss the check I was making. I miss my check. Um, but after there, you can get to a point where you can live comfortably. I
Yeah.
but with how creative you are, and you've got such a gift for this. I would love to see one day you go full time.
Thanks, man. I hope so. It'll be very scary. Like I'm the kind of person who I would like. I take risks, but I always try to double on things. Just for example, like I would if I have a cable, like that I'm gonna use for something, I
Mm-hmm.
will buy a second cable, even though I still have that one, just in case this one doesn't one day stops working. I can find the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the idea how I do my life. So even if I go full time, I have to keep something on the side as well. Just if something, I don't know, YouTube decides to demonetize me for some reason, then I'll have
Right.
something else. Or right. So it's scary, but I would love to. In fact, actually, I found myself enjoying so much doing the documentary. Like doing documentaries and filming, putting and editing. It's so much fun, man. It's a lot of work. It's tiring, but I just find this weird satisfaction from doing it. So I would love to be able to do like professional documentaries, filming them all around the world. I would love to do that. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it.
Like one thing I was thinking about that like this is because the size of your channel, well, we can also probably talk about this offline too, but like one thing I was thinking, uh you could I could definitely see you doing is like for outlets like Game Informer and such. Like I'm friends with the editor in chief over at Game Informer, and a lot of times when they need to get footage for certain games, a lot of footage you see on their YouTube channel and stuff, I'm
Oh,
capturing
really?
for them.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so
cool.
like, you have a rate, they'll pay you that, and then just different things you can do. Like I have multiple streams of income, but like I said, I miss my IT check. But I'm just saying, like, there are things, and we can definitely talk about this offline because I'm not sure. Have you worked with Sony or?
No, no.
Is there anything coming out with Sony you're interested in?
Like games from Sony, you mean? Or what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Sony is just their first party games are awesome, man. Like Spider-Man, I'm really looking forward to Spider-Man 2, for example.
I'll
God of
connect you.
War too.
I'll connect you to them.
Yeah.
I work with them.
Oh yeah,
I'm currently
dude.
working on.
Yeah. I'm not. It's kind of strange to see how the PlayStation is gonna do without Call of Duty, but I think they have enough first party titles to not worry about that. That's
Yeah,
whole Microsoft thing is kind of weird too.
and that's one of the things I find interesting. Like a lot of people that are panicking that the acquisition of Activision is going to negatively like hurt Sony.
Well,
Sony,
but I mean, it's we gotta be honest. I don't think. Well, I mean, the contract's already for the next Call of Duty games, the next maybe
yeah,
couple. But after that, it's definitely gonna go exclusive on Xbox. They're not gonna spend all that money to let PlayStation have it. It's not.
yeah,
It's not gonna. Now, Sony has some great FPS like franchises that have been dormant for some years. So I think it's the time to get those
yeah.
on track because Call of Duty is not what it used to be. I used to
It's
love Call of
not.
Duty. I don't even bother playing it anymore.
Yeah,
Uh, I
they need to
played
bring back.
4 like crazy, but it just it
Yeah,
feels like there's no soul to it. That's how I feel.
it really feels like after I want to say Modern Warfare 2, maybe 3. I'm being generous if I say 3. After Modern Warfare 2, I really felt like it just became routine for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And it lost its identity. And it's just like, oh, a new year, here's another game. A new year, here's another game. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Yep, absolutely. So I don't know. I mean, unless you're a Call of Duty player and you just bought a PlayStation 5, then yes, you're probably going to be panicking. But it's a lot of other franchises that do that better than Activision was doing. So, but it's a strange. Well, it's things are going to heat up between the two consoles. We're going back to the console wars again with this. I think because that's a big acquisition, and I think Sony will definitely do something.
yeah.
Not, I mean, they're not just going to go acquire someone, but I think it's going to push them to try and have those first party titles, more of them, and with even better quality. I think what's going to happen.
I mean, if they bring back Resistance or Killzone, I'd be happy.
Exactly, Resistance and Kills. Those are great FPS titles that have been dormant for a while.
Yeah, man. We are what, a week and a half, 2 weeks away from 15 as of this recording.
Yeah, about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks to have the game to. I mean, if you pre-order the deluxe edition, so that's going to be a little bit over 2 weeks. I'm hoping to play it a little bit earlier, see what happens. So,
How are
hopefully.
you once it drops, like how do you think you're gonna feel? Like that surreal feeling of like, yeah, it's here. You think it's gonna
Dude,
hit you really hard?
it's the thing. I got Samurai Showdown a little bit earlier than everybody else because I got the review copy, and
Mhm.
Samurai Showdown was like what 15 characters, so it was easy to just go over all of them, right? Like all the endings and see everything before the game was released and try everything. That's gonna be difficult with King of Fighters. I mean, 39 characters, all the combinations, all the endings, and all the content, but I know what I'm gonna do. The first thing, that's for sure. That's something I know. I'll just go and watch the anime short, the 5 minutes or 3 minutes anime. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm not even gonna go into arcade or story. Just go there, go to that gallery and watch that. That's the first thing I'm gonna do for sure. I'm a
I can't believe
huge anime like game adaptation anime fan. So
I was shocked when they announced they got Obari back.
yeah.
Like,
But I had my hopes a little bit high because when they said short anime, I was thinking it's actually like a short story, right? But it's more like a anime clip, right, with the game song playing in the back. I'm still happy, but I was hoping a bit more. I guess I got greedy when
Oh man. So other than that, anything else you're looking forward to this year? Like DNF Duel. That was so weird that they dropped that beta.
Yeah, I didn't try it,
Like,
obviously, for obvious reasons. But I'm looking forward to, well, in terms of fighting games, not really. I'm not. I mean, KOF is going to be my main game. Not really looking into anything else. But absolutely, God of War 2. I want to play that game. Other than that, it's just man, it's just gonna be King of Fighters. It's just gonna be my main game this year, and just I'm gonna try to be a good player. I'm gonna try to start from the beginning and just see what I can, content wise, what I'm gonna do with it. I'm very, very, very excited. Trying to again try to piece up the story. It's always fun for me. Just look at all the endings and try to make sense of things. I love doing that. That's that. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
awesome. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we go?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's a great honor. Those of you who enjoy the channel, thank you for being fans and watching my content. And I promise you, I'm still working on making things even better. So if you stick around, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Awesome. And where can people find you? We're going to include the links down below, but
well, I'm on obviously YouTube, Geo Now, and I'm on Twitter at neogeo now. So if you want to say hi, want to talk to me, if you want to ask me questions or tell me anything about the content, feel free to do so.
awesome. And with that being said, links for everything will be down in the description below. So make sure you go follow Nabil on Twitter, as well as sub to his YouTube channel for amazing content. And I'm not just saying it to blow smoke up your ass, man. I'm being completely truthful.
You.
Amazing content.
Thanks
you want to learn a lot about SNK, want to learn about, just the history, the characters, the different franchises. Make sure you go sub to his channel and stay tuned for more amazing content. I don't even know what's coming next. And I'm excited to see what's coming next from your channel. So it's been a true honor as a fan, having to calm down my fanboyness. Like, I'm over here like, yo, I can't believe I actually have you on the channel. Like just oh my goodness. It's so
thanks,
surreal.
man. It's really an honor. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Mahalo for your time for listening to this episode of the Kasanova Podcast, #1 podcast in Hawaii. If you found this episode to be incredibly enjoyable, informative, or if there's anything you gain from it, or any insight, or anything that's good that you really, really enjoyed, make sure whatever platform you're listening to it on, or if you're watching it, leave a comment if that's available on the platform, like it, share it around with someone you think would enjoy it, and give us some feedback, because your feedback is exactly what we need to keep this show going. And if you're wondering what are some ways that you could support the show, we got various ways. We've got Patreon, we have channel memberships over on YouTube, as well as Subscribestar, Coffee, and so much more. Links for everything will be in the description of the podcast, so make sure you go check that out. And with all that being said, I hope you have an aloha rest of your day.
Let them know that I'm next level. I'm a whole new kind of guy. Yeah. Yes, at the top spot in case you forgot. We the ones that got the block hot, bullet got the shot.